So what should boards expect from the senior executive? Again, this is stuff that I think there are expectations, and we talk about clear expectations. How you do these, how clear these are, will vary depending on who you are, what organization you're with, or how you do your work. It depends on the situation your organization is dealing with. If one were in crisis, I think the expectations are probably a little more well-defined and probably a little more poignant. So if you're facing bankruptcy, I think the decisions and the way you might work with a senior executive is quite different than if all is well and everything is perfect in a nonprofit. I've yet to see such a nonprofit, but I'm sure there are some of them out there where things are never like bubbling away. So the things that I think the board should expect from the senior executive to be kept informed, to make sure there's, I think there's a general rule is no surprises. That the worst thing you do as a CEO is to say, here's something that's been bubbling for 6 months and now I bring it to your attention. I think it sort of sets the tone for a conversation. The first question I would have as a board member is saying, why didn't I know about this earlier? I mean, I think there's things we could have brought to the equation. There's things that we could have added to help mitigate this or maybe alleviate the problem. So bringing questions and thoughts and issues before they're big questions and thoughts and issues. And again, that goes back to trust. Do I trust that if I bring you to the board something that maybe doesn't reflect well in the organization or doesn't necessarily reflect well in my own performance, to say, can I bring this to you and say, yeah, this is this scenario where we need some help and I need your help to do this. So, or even in good things. I mean, it doesn't have to be a crisis either. It can be, I was in a board meeting once and somebody brought up the fact that we just got a $500,000 grant for something. I thought, I'm not even sure we were moving to that area. And so you sort of think there are ways that you don't want to surprise the board and moving forward or anything like that, make sure they're well informed so that you're both able to do your job. But really, I think the heart of it is so they can do their job. Boards cannot do anything unless they have enough information, enough insight to work with stuff. The board should be, the boards they should expect they're treated as a collection of equals. And it is, I think this is when I got a graphic, I think Liz did up for us here in a second, is this the problematic nature of what it means for a single person, me, to relate to a group. So I'm working for a committee, more or less. I have a number of people who are going to direct my work. So sometimes that works really well and sometimes that doesn't. But they're a group of equals. No one on a board has any more power. So how do I have that relationship with this group of equals? How do I treat them the same? Or equally, not the same necessarily. It's probably a better way of putting it. So they are trying to wrestle with this idea of a collective, and I'm trying to work with them as a group of equals that way. That they should be expected to be supported in their decision making. So one of that reason we started with that decision, that sort of definition of what a board is that the legal authority is, there's times when I may not agree with my board. And to say they've decided to go a certain direction, and that's we've had conversations and hopefully we've had good sort of generative, discussions back and forth. But if they go a direction, that is the direction. That is the direction of the organization. This isn't me grumbling about saying, and we haven't had any of these at Integral that I'm aware of anyway. But I've been on around boards where you say the CEO thinks we're going this way and the board thinks we're going this way. Well, at the end of the day, the board's going this way. And it is the reality too that staff are temporary. And I'm not saying that's the solution to take on this one, but to say there does need to be that respect. So when we talk about working for a group that has all the legal authority and responsibility, then we need to certainly acknowledge that when things don't go our way, that is the group that has such authority. I think boards need to be supported in their own development. So it's part of my role to help my board be developed. And so we help them with information, we help them with governance training, we help them with team building stuff. That's stuff we do a lot down here in Integral organizations. But how do you bring some of those skills to the board? It's still their responsibility though. So it's still the board's responsibility to take care of their own house. So the idea of board self-governance is a key concept in board development. I think sometimes an underdeveloped area of boards is that we take care of our own teamwork, our own recruitment, our own onboarding, all those things. My job's here to support that. It is their duty to take their own house and me to help that out. But honesty, open, and candor and respect. I think it comes down to any relationship, and you'll see that those words on both sides of the equation here is that if we're not able to have conversations and generative conversations, and that does take time. It takes time to build that relationship, to go back and forth with that openness, that candor, that inquisitive, that sort of let's brainstorm some things together without being too locked in. Not on every issue. I don't need the board to brainstorm with me, the type of photocopier, paper to buy, that kind of stuff. But on issues that matter, We need to build that relationship that has some of those really generative type dynamics in a way that's healthy and ongoing and respectful. On the other side, there is what should the executives, the senior executive, yeah, that's what they should expect from me. This is what we should expect from them. So to speak with one voice. So if you do sort of basic governance training, you'll see the concept that boards speak with one voice. And that comes from the idea legally that the board is an entity, a singular entity that has a voice. Within a board, you may have lots of voices. So when we talk about the idea of speaking with one voice, we would say that around a board table, boards should have a whole bunch of opinions. They should wrestle with things. You may be able to, fight it out tooth and nail and not be aligned. But once you leave that board table, there is one voice. So the idea of consensus being that all voices are in the mix, and out of that mix comes one singular voice. So it's not like we all agree. It's not like there is no other opinions. And why it's really important is there's sort of two lanes that's important. Is one is the external role of the board and the organization outside. You don't want perception that you have the board, half the board thinks this and half the board thinks that. We're going different directions. But really important in that board CEO relationship, that's probably the most important place where this comes out, is that I have one trusted voice from my board that I need to follow. It's not I'm discerning from 8 or 10 or whatever number of board members are, that I've got to pick up the nuance of what the real threat is. So that idea of one clear, consistent, well thought out voice or direction from a board is super important, I think, from the board's perspective. Again, the board, I should expect that the board is taking care of their own house, that they are developing that culture of being an effective board. We spend a lot of time down here with the staff, trying to be a good staff team to figure out who we are and what skills we have and what we need to learn and how we each bring part of ourselves to this work. I think it's fair enough to say I expect the board to be going through the same. Now, I think most boards don't go through that. It's you don't have the time or the desire to do that, but boards do need to attend to who they are as a collective, not just in the decision making, but as a team, as a group that works together that way. I do expect to be supported, much as I'm expected to be supported in the decisions of the board. There is an expectation too that they support management decisions, and that once we made them, they're well thought out. And if there's performance issues, that's a separate thing. But if we're going a route, that we are going this route. So the idea that we do this as a partnership. To set clear and attainable performance expectations for sure. So what am I here to do? I mean, what are my goals? What am I expected to perform to? It's not just a made up thing, that they're clear. And if there is a review or some sort of judgment of somebody's performance, we know what we're judging again. And again, honestly, honestly, I'm not sure whether that's there. Honestly, candor and respect. We should be working at that as well.